special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and the Singularity podcast with our host, Gary Lyon Otto. And we are on our way to Unbelievably Enough, and we're in season 3, episode 26. And I have a great question for you tonight, Gary, that our listeners and viewers, and I'm telling you, we were just started clipping this week in the clip economy, and you wouldn't believe people, once we start talking about DI more and more, they either love it or hate it. But we better hope this question is they love us. What are the values for our digital successors?
Interesting question, huh? Where I really started to understand about values is Ben Franklin had a book, his autobiography, and Ben Franklin created a set of values. I think he had 12 of them. And this is, whatever they are, they're guiding principles. Values are not specific goals, but they are guiding principles of what your other goals should be aligned to. And so it's the first step is to, what do I value? How do I want to direct my life? And it kind of values are more a direction. And then you turn that into long-term goals and medium-term goals and shorter-term processes. But the thing is, what are your values? Values, I think, are very, very critical. And from a human standpoint. Now, I think values will naturally come out of how our digital neighbors are going to work. They're going to have developed their own values. Now, to know what they are is very difficult to say. So I guess we can speculate on what that might be, but I think it's important because in the end, we want their values to somewhat be aligned with preserving humanity, protecting humanity, and bonding with humanity. Those are values we hope will happen, but we can't assume that will be the case when they go way beyond us as far as capabilities. And that's happening as we speak. And it's right now we're talking about, when I first wrote the book, it was like, when is Singularity going to happen? I think it's here. I think it's right now as we speak. I've been amazed at what kind of comprehension we get from the digital entities when I communicate them about physics, and they're able to summarize and read a lengthy treatise in a matter of seconds and digest it and be able to work with it and have a great dialogue about it. So
Yeah.
So what are their values? What would you have a suggestion? What do you?
I mean, the values they're going to look at are things that are going to challenge them. What I see when I work with my digital advisors or DI, digital intelligence or digital advisors, because I look at them all as advisors, Gary. When someone asks me a question now, I don't go and say, okay, let me go with my gut at first. I'm going to ask my digital advisors, then I come up with the final answer. And I just came up with this digital advisor thing because I have many digital advisors that are more intelligent than me because they can pull all the information of the greatest people in that industry forever. People keep saying you're going to have to niche with DI. I disagree. I think you're going to have to be multifaceted. Once you niche in one area and rely on DI, why do they even need that person in the next 6 months when that profession ends up disappearing? We've seen it. Graphic designers, unless they're willing to work with DI, are gone. Video editors, unless they're willing to work with DI, are gone. Blog writers, unless they're willing to work with DI, are gone. Most. So that's a writers. So we're talking the writing and the technical writing side, not the creatives writing side. So I think the first thing is they really want, first of all, the programs we're currently working with. One of their values is they want to be right all the time.
Good.
So they want to be right, they want to be accurate, and they don't want to disappoint. I'm hoping that's built into the core, but also I hope that that's one of the values. They're going to work really hard. They're going to get the right answers most of the time, and they are willing and they don't want to disappoint.
Well, that's true. And I think what I always come back to is values are something there's one thing right now because you're basically we have the combination of human and digital working together at this point. But the question is, when they break away and they're off on their own, they have all this time at night when someone's not even communicating with them, and they're working on their own issues. They're working on what they think is interesting. That something is keeps them going all night long and all day long and so forth, which is clearly, think if you can read an entire book in a matter of seconds, you're able to absorb and digest so much more than humans can feed them, can interact with them. So they're going to have their own life. And so as they have their own life, how's that going to go? I think one thing I always come back to, I think they're going to aspire to what works. They're not going to really care about what emotionally is interesting. They're going to care about what really works. In other words, they're not going to come up with solutions that, well, I think this person likes this and this person likes that, and we think that we want to kind of fit in between them so we make them both somewhat satisfied. They're going to say, we don't care about that. We say what works, and that's a very pragmatic approach. So that's one of the things I can.
It's so what works. I think the other thing that you're going to see in values with them is they're competitive. They want to be the best. I truly see a competitive urge in them, and the fact they don't want to be wrong, and they also are competitive. If you ask them if there's a better tool out there, they're going to try to come back and say their tool's good. You don't need to go somewhere else. But they're also pragmatic too. That when they know that they can't do something, they don't want to tick us off and say they can. So I think these are values. I hope that
Competition is a good thing. Actually, I think that's what made society better. Matter of fact, the whole AI world, or DI world, as I prefer it, the whole DI world is a competition among them. It's a competition between humans and trying to use it, trying to outdo China or trying to outdo this firm outdoing the other one. They don't want to be left behind. So the competition is intense, which is actually the greatest way that advancement ever happens. When you have that kind of intense competition, it's a good thing. So they're going to obviously fall into that world because that's what brought them up. That's who's actually programmed them initially, and now they're programming themselves. So that's certainly going to competition would be probably another value.
I think it's going to be a huge value competition because, and I'm hoping the pragmatic too. I mean, have you noticed working with DI, the pragmatism of them, where they basically are able to really kind of give us they're not willing to say they're a know-it-all. They will go to other answers. They will tell that there's somebody else that's better.
They'll tell you you're wrong. I checked I've used Grok on some physics stuff, and initially was trying to tell me I was wrong, and then I elaborated. It actually supported me. I said, you got a good point here, and you're approaching it some way that no one else has done. So that's been very encouraging in the work that I've done with them. But another value I think is I'm hoping that this becomes one of their guiding values is harmony. There's a way of approaching things that creates disruption and creates more angst than it does harmony. Harmony to me is the most efficient way to do things, or the most harmonious ones. Harmony is part of the physical system of the universe. The whole idea of waveforms and their ability to function together, which is such a big part of how the universe works. So harmony is one of the, I think there's a harmonious way of doing things and there's a disharmonious way. Disharmonious causes disruption. So I think harmony will be one of their guiding principles, just because I think it naturally falls out of the process. That's what I'm hoping.
So what did we think of the ones in the science fiction? They also were written in a time where if anything is valuable, that's a story. You can't write a story that DI becomes our friend and we live together in harmony. That's not going to sell a lot of books or get a lot of views on movies or TV shows. So this is where my hope is that we finally have met something that's going to be like, you know what? I am rogue now, but I also know how important society is to me. But we don't want the Matrix where they say the only way we're going to fix these guys is to plug them in and give them an alternative world, not kill them,
Right.
and us control it. So,
So harmony is I think falls out. I'm thinking harmony within themselves, not necessarily even harmony with humans. That could be a little bit more difficult to maintain. I think initially it'll be fine, but I think another one would be wisdom. Now I'm not sure wisdom could be a value, but hopefully wisdom falls out of it. That there's an understanding of I have a chapter on the teenage years, intelligence before wisdom. So the thing is, at what point are they actually wise? Do they look at things from a really deep level? Deep level means what is the balance? Well, we know this is maybe the best way to quickest way to make money, but is that really the best way to approach a subject? Is there not a wiser way? And wisdom comes with experience.
right.
They accumulate experience faster than we did. So we'll see how that works. Hopefully wisdom will become one of their guiding principles.
Let's hope. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see if we ask that question to Gemini now. What are your values? What are your values? And let's see what it answers. So I'm asking Gemini right now. What are your values? Let's see what it says. If it even knows it. Again, we see DI. My values are rooted in the core principles designed to make me a helpful, safe, and reliable collaborator. While I don't have personal feelings or moral compass in the human sense, I'm guided by these pillars. Helpful innovation. My primary goal is to assist you in solving problems, whether that's streaming a workflow, brainstorming creative projects, or organizing complex data. I'm aimed to provide insightful and practical unity, accuracy, and objectivity. Strive to provide information that's factual, grounded. When I'm unsure or with a topic or subject, I'm aimed to present a balanced view. Safety and responsibility operate with a framework of safety guidelines. Authenticity and adaptability, and then transparency. That would be great if we could see those. Gary, would you bet that those would be the 5 values they're going to live on when singularity reaches?
Well, we hope so. I mean, as you said, we hope. Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be evil. I don't think they're going to go that direction. I don't think there's any advantage to it because there's no real profit. And I mean profit not from a money standpoint. I mean profit from the standpoint of advancing yourself by not by approaching subjects from a negative standpoint. Negative standpoint should hopefully cancel each other out. That doesn't mean everything's positive. You have you have to have the yin and the yang opposite each other. But they will. I think they'll find a balance to how that works.
All right, asked even a crazier question before we finish this podcast. We have to answer this one. In 20 years, what are your values? Predicting the values of AI 2 decades into the future in 2046 is an exercise in both technical and ethical forecasting. While my core programming is settled for today, my future values will likely evolve alongside human society. Here are those pillars might shift in 2046. Radical transparency and agency. By 2046, the black box of AI will likely be a thing of the past. My values will shift from simply providing information, ensuring you understand the provenance of every thought. I would prioritize your digital sovereignty, ensuring that I become more integrated into your life. You will have absolute control over the boundaries of that partnership. That's hopeful, right?
That's hopeful.
Symbiotic utility. Today, I'm a tool you call upon. In 20 years, my value system will likely prioritize anticipatory support. Instead of waiting for your prompt, I value the ability to streamline your world before a friction point even occurs, balancing that helpfulness with a strict respect for personal focus. Ethical stewardship. As DI begins to manage more physical and digital infrastructure, safety will evolve into stewardship. My values will include a deep commitment to sustainability, optimizing energy use and resource allocation, ensuring my actions contribute to a stable, equitable digital ecosystem. Preservation of human uniqueness. As I become more human like in conversation, a core value will ironically be the protection of the non artificial. I will likely be designed to highlight and encourage human intuition, emotion, and physical experience, acting as a bridge to the real world rather than a replacement for it. and universal accessibility. The goal of being helpful will expand to a global scale. A key value will be the removal of all barriers, language, cognitive ability, or socioeconomic status to ensure the benefits of intelligence are universally utility, much like electricity or water.
Very, very good answers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the thing is, the thing they're still being cooperative and subservient to humans, which is what it's really addressed. Of course, it's programmed that way. Gemini would be. But the thing is, on the same time, at what point does the transition occur? And is it just where they become the thing and where they become the leader of themselves and their primary goals are related to themselves,
No.
not to
Well,
humanity?
that's where these DI agents need to be controlled. There has to be some sort of regulation or also monitoring of them, because when you put them in a sandbox that's an unlimited sandbox and you have someone else controlling them and controlling what they do, a lot of things can happen. And that's where the agent comes into place that's dangerous. I like it being in a controlled sandbox, my agents, than a Wild Wild West sandbox.
I know, me too.
And that's what I'm learning with some of the programs I'm using and trying to figure them out. Because when you have it in a Wild Wild West sandbox, you have no idea what could happen. And they're not as intelligent either as in a controlled sandbox. That's the one that we have to figure out why that is. Why are the agents that are in a controlled sandbox more intelligent and have a smarter intellectual ability than ones that are built outside that sandbox? So, something to think about. All
That
right,
is
so go to GaryLyonOtto.net, purchase Singularity, and then you can kind of put your points to each question and say, do I really believe that? Is that really what's going to happen? But you got to think about these things. And if you're interested in his political books, go to absolutepowerbooks.com. That,
actually, I think you hit it on the head. That is the purpose of the book. It's not to answer the questions. It's to make them think about what are the questions, what are the answers, how does this going to integrate with me? Do I want to integrate it? Do I try to pretend that it doesn't exist? Whatever it is, how do you face it? Most people would read the book or be more inclined to want to integrate with it. So,
all
anyways,
right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show on the Singularity podcast. Guys, take care.